Cotton on the eve of really one of the more important speeches ever delivered in the joint session of Congress tomorrow with Benjamin Netanyahu. Senator Cotton, great to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Hugh, great to be on with you this evening. You're at a great location there from the Hoover Institute. Many great scholars and former leaders of our country, people like George Shultz and Thomas Sowell, Peter Berkowitz, Victor Davis Hanson have done great work from there.
Yeah, VDH was on earlier today. General Mattis, of course, running around here, and Corey Shack was going to be on with me. Let me ask you, Senator Cotton, what your expectations are for tomorrow night and your assessment of the run-up to this speech on all sides.
I'm very eager to hear what Prime Minister Netanyahu has to say. I agree with the Prime Minister that the United States and Israel cannot accept a nuclear Iran because Iran has been exporting Islamic revolution for 35 years. They've been killing Americans and Jews all around the world for 35 years. They killed many Americans when I was serving in Iraq in 2006, as well as before and after, and right now they're trying to establish a regional hegemony throughout the Middle East. Simply imagine what they would do if they had a nuclear weapon, given what they already do without one.
Well, given all that backdrop, what do you expect the Prime Minister to call on Congress to do? Expedite the Graham sanctions bill or the Kirk bill? What's the agenda, or will he be not that specific?
I don't know if the Prime Minister will call on Congress to make a specific action, but I do think he will emphasize, again, to the United States Congress, the American people, and the world that we cannot accept a nuclear Iran, and the only acceptable outcome is the complete, unconditional nuclear disarmament of Iran, along the lines of what South Africa did and what Libya did.
Now, at AIPAC today, the American Israeli Political Action Committee, Samantha Powers, our UN ambassador, said that this administration will not allow a nuclear Iran. Now, that is an artful construction, meaning it might happen on the next watch, as happened with North Korea after the Clinton failed deal of 1994. Do you think she was trying to communicate a greater toughness than has been perceived, or is she leaving a back door out for us saying it's not going to happen on our watch?
Hugh, the President and his senior advisors have already been moving the goalpost in Iran's favor since these negotiations began. They began with Iran's complete nuclear disarmament. Now we're up to the point where we're haggling over the number of centrifuges Iran is going to get to keep, over the amount of uranium it's going to get to keep, over how long any deal would last before Iran could turn its new nuclear industrial capacity into a nuclear weapon. And for that matter, the deal apparently would exclude any sanctions or any restrictions on Iran's use of nuclear or ballistic missiles or the past military aspects of Iran's program.
Now, I'm curious, Senator, having yourself served in Iraq and Afghanistan, sanctions regimes are typically accompanied by inspections. And yet people in their mind in the West think of, I can find their nuclear facilities because they'll be marked like Stanford University, big signs pointing to it, get off at this exit and go this way. Having driven around Iraq and Afghanistan, how staggering a challenge is it to actually have an inspections regime that would work?
Tremendously difficult, Hugh, because Iran is a giant country and nuclear weapons programs do not require big footprints. And as we have seen in North Korea, the nuclear weapons programs can often be concealed in a clandestine fashion. Look, we went down this road with North Korea in 1994. We reached an agreement that we claimed would denuclearize North Korea. The world proclaimed the greatness of the agreement, and then they continued to turn the other way as evidence of North Korea's infractions continued. North Korea continued to play cat-and-mouse games with inspectors, and ultimately North Korea detonated a nuclear weapon. We cannot allow that to happen in the world's most volatile region. And if Iran truly wanted to rejoin the civilized world and to renounce its nuclear program, it has a simple model. What Muammar Gaddafi did in Libya in 2003, or what the old apartheid regime did in South Africa right before they went out of power. Simply disarm and allow unfettered, complete, continuous access to the entire country. The fact that they're not doing that tells you all you need to know.
And so, at the end of the day, which of these bills is progressing more quickly? And I saw Lindsey Graham over the weekend, I believe it was on the Fox News channel, he wasn't on NBC, make this statement that renewed sanctions is veto-proof. Do you agree with that assessment?
I certainly hope so. There are two bills, as you say, bills that would impose new sanctions if Iran walks away from the table or commits an infraction of the current interim agreement. Second, a bill that would require a deal to be submitted to Congress so Congress has a time to review it. I frankly don't think we should have ever gone down this road. I would like to see sanctions in effect now, and I would like to set the ground rules so that a deal must be ratified by Congress, not that a deal can go to Congress and Congress will have a chance to block it, because that means we have to overcome President Obama's veto. But in the end, any agreement that is not approved by Congress is purely an executive agreement between President Obama and Ayatollah Khamenei. And President Obama is out of office in 23 months. And I'm in office for 6 years, and I'm 37 years old, and I'm healthy.
Now, let me ask you about the DHS situation, because any attempt to cabin an executive agreement would require the use of the power of the purse. I'm not sure I would fight over DHS right now because the injunction's in order, and I might save a shutdown for the Iranian regime sanctions. What's your assessment of the DHS situation with a week to go before funding runs out?
Hugh, the Senate passed legislation that would fund all of DHS operations through the end of the year. I didn't vote for that because I thought that we should not be funding President Obama's unlawful amnesty decree. Now, there are other ways, and you suggest one, that we can stand up to that decree yet fund the very important parts of DHS, like the Border Patrol, like the Secret Service, like the TSA. For instance, we could pass a funding mechanism that was tied to the judge's injunction in the Texas case, or for that matter, we could fund fully every part of DHS that has no role in implementing this amnesty decree, which is basically every agency but Citizenship and Immigration Services. But in the end, everyone must remember this is much more than simply a refraining from the deportation of illegal immigrants, who truly no one believes this president's going to do anyway. This is using taxpayer dollars to generate work IDs and taxpayer identification numbers and ultimately provide welfare benefits and Social Security benefits to 5 million illegal immigrants in defiance of federal law.
I'm coming right back with Tom Cotton. I want to ask him about the A-10, so I asked him to stick around for the short segment to wrap up today's program from the Hoover Institution. www.hughhewitt.com. Follow me on Twitter at Hugh Hewitt. Follow Senator Cotton at Tom Cotton AR. Stay tuned, America. 55 minutes after the hour, America. It's Hugh Hewitt. I want to thank everyone here, especially Jenny Mayfield at the Hoover Institution, for making us so welcome. Generalissimo with me all week long as we do a deep dive into the Hoover Institution. And all of my guests today, and I especially want to thank Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas for sticking around for the short segment. But a story came out this afternoon, Senator Cotton, the Washington Post, that the Air Force has begun moving A-10 attack jets into backup status, even as it continues to use the plane in airstrikes against the Islamic State. And a group of members of the Congress, including you, have sent a letter to Ashton Carter objecting to what you call the backdoor divestment of the plane. What do you mean by that?
Hugh, the Air Force has tried to mothball the A-10 for some time now. Members of Congress, including I, worked very hard last year to stop the Air Force from doing so, and now we believe this could be a backdoor effort to take the A-10 out of service. I'm opposed to that because the A-10 is an essential aircraft for close air support of our soldiers and our Marines who are on the ground. It was used time and time again in Afghanistan and Iraq, and as you say, it's being used currently today. It may not be a new whiz-bang aircraft. It may not be very sexy, but it is lethal, and it gets the job done, and that mission is absolutely critical. So we need to recognize that we have a perfectly good aircraft and that we should keep using it to kill bad guys on the ground, just like we're doing with the Islamic State right now.
Well, is this a Pentagon, or is this a civilian bureaucratic leadership of the Pentagon, or is it a presidential animus to the A-10?
Hugh, there's been a long-held view within the Department of Defense, and specifically the Air Force, about moving away from close air support type missions to more strategic bombing and dogfighting missions. And there's an effort, as you probably know, to take the F-35 and turn it into a one airframe fits all missions role. So it would provide close air support or dogfighting or strategic bombing. And that may be suitable 5 years from now when the F-35 finally has all the kinks worked out, when that program is finally up and running as it was supposed to be. But in the meantime, we have lots of A-10s. They're in perfectly good shape, and they're providing an important role in Iraq right now, and who knows where else in the years to come. Now, we could solve this problem, Hugh, if we address the underlying reason that the Air Force is providing to try to mothball the A-10, which is increasing defense spending. The most immediate reason they cite is that because of the devastating cuts to our defense budget, we can no longer do things like move forward with the next generation of fighters as we must, while also maintaining single-mission aircraft like the A-10. That's why I am calling for a significant increase to the defense budget.
Tom Cotton, I agree with that. Senator, great to talk to you. Thanks for joining me today. Look forward to